Thank you for that fine speech, Gillian. We now turn over to the opposition. So, opening the case for the opposition, we are joined by Mr. Alex Ballinger. Alex Ballinger is a Labour Party politician and a Member of Parliament for Halloween. Alex served on the Royal Marines from 2005 until 2013, undertaking 2 tours of Afghanistan and attaining the rank of captain. Upon leaving the armed forces, Alex pursued a career in international development, working on projects across the Middle East and Pakistan. In Parliament, Alex sits on the Foreign Affairs Select Committee and chairs the APPGs for the Armed Forces and Conflict Prevention. Alex, you have the ears of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you to the Cambridge Union for inviting me to join the debate today. One small correction. I'm the MP for Halesowen, and I'm sure my constituents wouldn't correct me if they listen to this video later on. I'm delighted to be here, but many of you might be asking the same question that Gillian asked right now. With the polls quite as bad as they are for the Labour government right now, why would a Labour Party MP turn up to this debate? And I think many of my colleagues were asking the same question, of course. So we just have 2 MPs on our side. So I think I need to say thank you to Oscar, who is the co-chair of the Cambridge Union Labour Society, is that right? Yes, who's joining us today. So I think you have a long career in politics ahead of you for stepping up for this one. However, I think it's also worth saying that as bad as the polls are for the Labour government, the polls are much worse for the Conservatives. The opposition, of course, they've sent forward 2 shadow cabinet members, I should say, and a former Secretary of State. And of course, they've had lots of time to write their speeches during the very well-attended Conservative Party conference that was happening this week. But everything aside, I am very proud to stand here and make the case for what this Labour Party is doing since the election, and more importantly, the direction that we'll be taking this country. As you all know, and as we heard from the speaker on the floor earlier, we have inherited an absolute catastrophe from 14 years of the Conservatives. A Britain where ambition had floundered, where cynicism had become default, and where people, especially young people, felt that the country just wasn't working for them anymore. Under the Conservatives, wages have stagnated whilst rent and mortgages rose. Student debt has reached record levels whilst the opportunities to buy a house are completely out of reach. And public services, the NHS, schools, local councils, are completely stretched to breaking point. Yes?
You mentioned housing. Who was the worst performing housing minister in recent years? It wasn't Michael Gove. It wasn't Robert Jenrick. It was your former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, who built fewer houses than anyone else. So why on earth are you bringing that statistic up?
So any Labour government, or any government that comes into power, takes time to make legislation. And we're focusing on things like planning reform and ambitious house-building targets and changing the Renters' Rights Bill. So it's not a surprise that the awful situation we inherited from the Conservatives hasn't turned around yet. But we have this really ambitious target, an ambitious target I'll talk about in a moment, where we're going to build more social housing and more affordable housing than anyone has done in a generation. That will be transformational. Of course, we inherited this mess. Not a country that had failed, but a country that had been failed. And that's why the Labour government has set about the hard work of renewal. After all that failure, we are rebuilding our country from the foundations up. This cannot happen overnight. Real change takes time. But in just over a year, we have already seen massive progress. Early years care has been transformed. Now, people in my town of Halesowen, they felt neglected. Parents, children have not had the opportunities that they had under the last Labour government. But now, already, they have free childcare, free breakfast clubs, and free Best Start family hubs. Most of you won't remember Sure Start. Sure Start was set up under the last Labour government, but this was the biggest transformation for health and education outcomes for disadvantaged children that we ever did. The Conservatives closed those down. Now, we're bringing them back. We're also rebuilding the NHS. Now, we talked about waiting lists. We heard about the massive change there. We're investing in training. And we're also rolling out neighbourhood care hubs, so there is more health in the community. In my area of Dudley, in our borough, there are less people, 50% less people, waiting over a year from operations already. That's a massive increase. That's grandparents, parents, neighbours, people that are getting that treatment in 18 weeks instead of 18 months. A massive difference from the last government. And on the economy, now we've heard some statistics given out from Gillian earlier. I think those statistics don't represent the success that we've had. We are now the fastest growing economy in the G7. We're growing faster than the USA, faster than any advanced European country, exactly as we promised during the election campaign. Please.
You know, the Conservatives also lacked the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Yes.
So it was not the fastest growing economy in the G7 in 2024, but so far in 2025 we are the fastest growing economy. And considering the doom-mongering that we've heard from the opposition, that doesn't represent what people are feeling. The trade deals that we've had with America, with India, with the European Union, people in my area, manufacturers in the Black Country, are delighted with those deals. They see exports rising, they see opportunities, they see more young apprentices coming up. The other piece of information that wasn't shared is that real wages are increasing. People's real incomes have increased more in the first year of the Labour government than they did under 10 years of stagnation under the last Conservative government. That's real change, that's real money in the pockets of real people. Labour is renewing our country, not through slogans, but through delivery. And nowhere is that renewal more important than for young people. If the government cannot deliver hope for the next generation, then we failed in our most basic task. And that's why we're focusing on the clean energy revolution. GB Energy is creating skilled, good jobs all across the country at the same time as tackling the climate crisis. That's engineers, that's construction workers, that's maintenance workers right here in the east of England working on things like the offshore wind hubs that we have that are doing so well in the North Sea. If we are abandoning our climate commitments like the Conservatives are talking about, it's the next generation that will pay the price. And I think that is completely unforgivable. And we're making homes more effective. As we've already heard, we've got planning reform coming through. This is going to be the biggest change to GDP growth in the country, according to the OBR. That hasn't got through Parliament yet. When it does, that will be transformational. It will make houses more affordable and allow us to build the largest number of social and affordable houses in a generation. It's going to give a chance to young people again to get on that housing ladder, to buy houses in a way that just hasn't been possible under the last government. And we've also launched a youth experience scheme. So like most of people from my generation, I had the chance to travel to Europe. I had the chance to study at Leiden University. That was taken away by the Conservatives' disastrous Brexit deal. Please.
You're bringing a youth mobility scheme to the UK with the EU, people with competitive education systems like ours. When youth unemployment for Gen Z, my generation, is at the worst level in 30 years. So you're really just going to make youth unemployment worse, aren't you?
I think, and I'm open for views from around the house here, I think young people welcome the opportunity to travel, to study abroad, to work abroad, to gain those experiences that people of my generation had, including to work and to get jobs. And I think people welcome European students coming to the UK to take the same opportunities. And that opportunity was gone. Thank you. Was taken away after your disastrous Brexit deal. Under this Labour government, young people will never be an afterthought. We're always going to have you at the forefront of our mission. Now, of course, in any debate like this, you have to consider what are the alternatives. If Labour fails, who is waiting in the wings to take over after us? So the Conservatives, who after losing power have learned absolutely nothing. The same party that broke Britain's economy now is arguing amongst itself whether the answer is more chaos or not enough. And Reform, whose idea of leadership is to shout loudly on social media and whose idea of patriotism is to turn people against their neighbours and pick fights with our international allies. Both trade in division. Yes?
Was Keir Starmer's idea of patriotism to give away the Chagos Islands when the Chagos didn't want that?
I think it's very important that this country stands up for international law. We've done it for many years, and I think that has been abrogated under the last government. I'll give a good example of that. I'll make some progress, thank you. I'll give a good example of where the last government, or actually, we heard at the Conservative Party conference some of the ideas of maybe a future government would do, which is to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights, ripping up the rules that underpin European security and European cooperation. It's thinking in some way that if we walk away from the rule of law, we can make Britain great again. We have, of course, the Shadow Home Secretary and the Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary sat opposite me, and I'm sure they'll say their point at the moment. But do we really want to be in the same boat as Russia and Belarus? Do we think that being in that is going to improve cooperation with our European allies? That security cooperation that is so vital for tackling terrorism, organised crime and the smuggling gangs? Or do we think the people of Northern Ireland are going to be happy with us abrogating our responsibilities for the Good Friday Agreement? I was in Belfast earlier this year. I spoke to people there. They are disgusted with the Conservatives' Brexit deal for that part of the country. And the last thing that they want is another deal that takes no account at all of the people of Northern Ireland. These parties are not offering leadership. They offer only more chaos. Unlike our opponents, this Labour government is not chasing headlines, and we're not fighting culture wars. We're focused on renewing Britain, patiently, diligently, and carefully. We're helping bring communities together, not tearing them apart. And despite the appalling inheritance, we're delivering the change that people actually want. An NHS that works, decent schools, and a fair paycheck. That's what this Labour government represents. Real change for ordinary people up and down the country. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, this House should have confidence in this Labour government. And when you vote tonight, don't vote for cynicism and betrayal. Vote for decency, vote for fairness, and vote for renewal. Thank you.